You don't lose peace because life is hard. You lose peace because you talk too much about your life. Every time you open your mouth to explain yourself, defend yourself, or prove yourself to people who were never meant to understand you, you hand them pieces of your power without realizing it. The Buddha taught that the root of suffering is attachment, and one of the strongest attachments we have today is the need to be seen, heard, validated, and understood by everyone. But what if the real transformation begins the moment you stop explaining yourself? What if the happiness you've been searching for grows the moment you silence the world and return to your own mind? Today, I will show you why the less you share, the more you grow, and why your silence is not weakness, but your greatest spiritual weapon. 1. People don't deserve access to every corner of your life. The Buddha taught that your inner world is sacred, and not everyone is spiritually ready to handle the truth of who you are. In life, you will meet people who react to your blessings with quiet resentment, not because you did anything wrong, but because your growth exposes their stagnation. You will meet people who do not feel happy when you succeed. Instead, they feel threatened, insecure, or uncomfortable. You will also meet people who listen to your struggles not with compassion, but with curiosity, almost as if your pain is entertainment for them. These people pretend to care, but they only care about having something to talk about. And then there are those who hear your dreams and aspirations and immediately feel jealous because your ambition makes them confront the fact that they stopped dreaming a long time ago. When you share too much with people who lack emotional maturity, spiritual depth, or genuine kindness, you unknowingly give them access to parts of your life they were never meant to hold. Every detail you reveal becomes something they can use against you. It can be twisted into something it never was. It can be misunderstood and judged from their limited perspective. It can be turned into gossip behind your back. The painful truth is this: not everyone listens to understand. Many listen to compare, to criticize, to compete, or to quietly celebrate your failures. This is why silence is powerful. Silence is not hiding. Silence is not fear. Silence is wisdom. It is the conscious act of choosing what is sacred and what is safe to share. It is the understanding that your life is not a public event for everyone to analyze and comment on. You are allowed to hold some parts of yourself close. You are allowed to have dreams that nobody knows about yet. You are allowed to have struggles that only you and Allah are aware of. You are allowed to have a private relationship with your own growth. Silence gives you control. You decide who deserves a seat at the table of your life. You decide who has earned the right to know your thoughts, your fears, your plans, your vulnerabilities. You decide who has shown consistent sincerity, respect, and loyalty, not through words, but through actions. When someone has proven that they can hold your heart without dropping it, your truth without judging it, and your silence without demanding explanations, then sharing becomes safe. But until then, the less you share, the more you protect what is sacred. And this is the final truth. Your life becomes calmer, stronger, and more peaceful when you stop giving random people access to your mind, your emotions, and your journey. Your silence becomes a shield, your privacy becomes your strength, and the sacred ground of your life remains untouched, calm, and free from unnecessary drama, jealousy, and negativity. 2. Explaining yourself is a prison. Freedom lives in silence. One of the greatest Buddhist teachings is that suffering begins the moment you start living for other people's approval. The need to explain yourself, defend your choices, justify your actions, and constantly clarify your intentions is one of the heaviest prisons a human being can carry. When you repeatedly explain yourself to others, you unconsciously hand them the remote control to your emotions. You give them the power to validate or invalidate your life. And the saddest part is that most people you try so hard to explain yourself to have never walked your path, never faced your battles, and never understood your intentions in the first place. When you explain yourself to someone who has already decided how they want to see you, you are not communicating, you are begging. You are begging for understanding from someone who has no desire to understand you. You are begging for kindness from someone whose heart is not open. You are begging for acceptance from someone who is committed to misunderstanding you because your truth either threatens their ego, challenges their beliefs, or makes them uncomfortable. The Buddha said that people do not see things as they are. They see things as they are. And if their inner world is full of insecurity, jealousy, and confusion, they will project that onto you, no matter how much you explain. That is why silence is freedom. Silence is the moment you stop defending your life to people who don't live it. Silence is the moment you stop trying to prove your worth to people who can't even see their own. Silence is the moment you stop wasting emotional energy on those who only listen to respond, react, or judge. Not everyone deserves access to your inner reasons, your motives, your fears, your heartbreaks, your dreams, or the logic behind your decisions. Your path is your own, and you are allowed to walk it without handing out explanations like permission slips. Explaining yourself repeatedly also drains your spiritual energy. Every time you try to justify your choices, you subconsciously question yourself. You start wondering, am I doing something wrong? Even when your heart knows you are doing what is right for your growth and peace, you create unnecessary doubt because you let someone else's opinion become louder than your inner wisdom. In Buddhism, inner peace comes from aligning your actions with your truth, not with other people's expectations. And here is the deepest truth. The people who genuinely love you, support you, and care for you will never demand explanations from you. They will trust your decisions even when they don't fully understand them. They will give you space to grow, to change, and to follow your own timing. The wrong people demand explanations. The right people offer understanding without being asked. When you let go of the need to explain yourself, you reclaim your freedom. You reclaim your confidence. You reclaim your peace. Your silence teaches others that you are not available for judgment, arguments, or emotional manipulation. And it teaches you to stop validating your existence through other people's limited vision. You owe nobody an explanation for your healing, your boundaries, your priorities, your growth, or your silence. Your life belongs to you. And freedom begins the moment you stop explaining who you are and start becoming who you are meant to be. 3. When you speak less, you see more. One of the most profound teachings in Buddhism is that clarity comes from quiet. When the mind becomes silent, even for a moment, you begin to see life with a sharpness and depth that constant talking can never give you. Most people speak not to communicate, but to escape their own thoughts. They talk because silence makes them uncomfortable. They talk because they fear being judged. They talk because they want validation, attention, or reassurance. But the more you talk, the more noise you create inside yourself, and noise blinds you. When you reduce how much you speak, an extraordinary transformation begins inside your awareness. You start noticing things you ignored before: the real intentions behind people's words, the energy behind their actions, the truth hidden behind their smiles. You start picking up signals that were always there, but drowned out by your own voice. You begin to see who respects your silence and who feels threatened by it. People who truly value you will never demand constant access to your thoughts, but people who want control, drama, or gossip will become irritated when you stop feeding them information. The Buddha often described the mind as a lake. When the water is disturbed, you cannot see the reflection clearly, but when the water becomes still, the entire sky is revealed on its surface. Your life works the same way. When you talk excessively, your mind becomes like a stormy lake, full of ripples, waves, and disturbances. You lose clarity. You lose intuition. You lose the ability to understand what is really going on around you. But the moment you begin to speak less, your mind settles. The water clears. Suddenly, what was confusing becomes obvious. What was hidden becomes visible. What was complicated becomes simple. When you speak less, you also see the true nature of people. The more silent you become, the more loudly others reveal themselves. You see who is genuine and who is pretending. You see who listens with their heart and who listens only to respond. You see who respects your boundaries and who only respects you when you give them what they want. Silence becomes a filter that separates the sincere from the fake. Speaking less also strengthens your intuition. Intuition is the inner voice that guides you toward wisdom, protection, and growth. But you cannot hear intuition when your mind is crowded with noise. When you talk less, your inner voice becomes louder. You begin to sense when something feels off, even if everything looks normal on the surface. You begin to sense when someone has hidden intentions, even if their words sound sweet. You begin to sense which path is right for you, even before you understand why. Another powerful transformation happens. Your thoughts become more organized. When you talk less, your mind naturally begins processing information with greater focus. You stop reacting emotionally and start responding mindfully. You stop jumping to conclusions and start observing carefully. You stop acting out of impulse and start acting with intention. This is how wisdom grows, not through endless talking, but through deep observation. And here is the beauty of speaking less. You don't just see more, you attract more respect. People trust those who speak with intention. People admire those who choose their words carefully. People pay attention to those who do not reveal everything. Silence creates mystery, and mystery creates value. When you speak less, what you do say becomes more meaningful. Your words carry weight. Your presence becomes powerful. People listen when you finally choose to speak. The Buddha said that awareness is the foundation of spiritual growth, and awareness is born in silence. When you speak less, your vision sharpens, your intuition strengthens, your understanding deepens, and your soul becomes grounded in truth. You begin to see the world clearly, without the fog of noise. And once you see clearly, you cannot be deceived, manipulated, or misled. Silence opens your eyes in ways that noise never will. 4. Silence protects you from fake support and hidden jealousy. One of the most painful truths the Buddha revealed is that not every person who smiles at you carries goodwill in their heart. Not every "I'm happy for you" is sincere. Not every listener is a friend. Some people stand close to you not because they love you, but because they want to watch you closely, to measure your progress, compare your blessings to their own, and quietly hope that you don't rise too far above them. Hidden jealousy is far more common than open hostility, and the people who envy you the most are often the ones who pretend to support you the loudest. This is why silence becomes one of the greatest shields you can carry through life. When you overshare your plans, your dreams, your success, your progress, or even your struggles, you unintentionally expose yourself to people who do not want to see you grow. They will smile as you speak, but inside, something twists, a discomfort, a bitterness, a fear that your growth makes them feel smaller. They may never admit it, even to themselves, but you will notice it in their reactions, their forced enthusiasm, their dry responses, their sudden silence when you share something good, or the way they quickly change the topic when the attention shifts toward your achievements. These reactions are subtle, but silence helps you see them clearly. Fake supporters thrive on information. They need to know what you're doing so they can adjust their behavior around you. If they see you succeeding, they may pretend to encourage you while secretly hoping for your failure. If they see you struggling, they may pretend to comfort you while secretly enjoying the drama. When you stop sharing, you cut off their fuel. They cannot judge what they cannot see. They cannot sabotage what they do not know. They cannot interfere with plans that exist only in your heart. Silence also helps you recognize who is truly happy for you and who only seems to be. When you start keeping your life private, pay attention to who becomes distant. Some people are only attached to you because they enjoy having access to your life, your mind, or your emotions. They are not attached to you, they are attached to the information you provide. The moment you stop feeding them, they lose interest. And although this may hurt, it is the greatest gift silence gives you, the ability to see who is real. Jealousy is not always loud. It often disguises itself as small doubts, subtle comments, or gentle discouragement. Someone may say, "Are you sure you can do this?" Not out of concern, but because they fear your success. Someone may say, "It's risky, maybe don't try it." Not out of protection, but because they don't want you to rise higher than them. Someone may tell you, "Everyone is trying to do this, it won't work," because they secretly don't want to see you win. Silence prevents these seeds of discouragement from being planted in your heart. The Buddha taught that the heart becomes protected when the mouth becomes disciplined. When you reveal less, you remove the chance for people to infect your mind with jealousy, doubt, or negativity. Protecting your inner world is an act of wisdom. You are not responsible for managing how others feel about your growth. You are responsible only for safeguarding your peace and your path. There will always be people who admire your strength but hope you stay below them. There will always be people who love your light but fear that it will shine brighter than theirs. There will always be people who say they support you but secretly envy your journey. Silence is the remedy. When you stay silent, people reveal themselves. When you stop sharing, people show their true faces. When you guard your plans, you protect your progress. And here is the final truth. Real supporters do not need constant updates. They do not require explanations. They do not feel threatened by your growth. They cheer for you even when they don't know the details, and they celebrate your success even when they cannot benefit from it. When you speak less, you naturally filter out the fake from the real, the temporary from the genuine, the jealous from the sincere. Silence is not emptiness. It is protection. It is clarity. It is the quiet force that keeps your heart safe from those who pretend to care but secretly hope you fail. When you stay silent, you keep your power. When you stay silent, you stay protected. When you stay silent, you stay at peace. 5. Your energy grows when you stop giving people pieces of your mind. One of the most misunderstood truths in life is that your energy is not unlimited. Your emotional strength, your mental clarity, your spiritual peace, these are resources that can be drained, weakened, and exhausted if you constantly give them away to the wrong people. The Buddha taught that the mind is like a flame. When protected, it burns bright and strong, but when exposed to too much wind, it flickers, dims, and eventually dies out. Every time you overshare, every time you explain yourself when you don't need to, every time you allow others to enter your inner world without earning the right, you expose your flame to unnecessary winds. Sharing your ideas, your goals, your future plans, and your private thoughts with people who don't value you weakens the quiet momentum that real growth requires. Some people don't deserve your dreams because they don't have the capacity to believe in them. Some don't deserve your struggles because they don't have the compassion to hold them gently. And some don't deserve your victories because your elevation threatens their comfort. When you reveal too much, you dilute the power of your own intentions. Energy leaks through words. When you talk about a goal instead of working on it, you lose the fire that was meant to fuel your actions. When you talk about your healing process to people who don't understand it, you slow your healing because their doubts become louder than your own inner voice. When you talk about your spiritual journey to people who are not walking beside you, they pull you back with their limited understanding. The Buddha reminded us that the mind becomes strong when it is focused inward, not outward. Your energy multiplies when you guard your thoughts, protect your plans, and keep your inner world sacred. Another truth is that your emotions are not meant to be handled by everyone. Your sadness, your pain, your confusion, your anger, these are not entertainment for others. These are not topics for gossip. These are not moments for people to compare themselves to you. When you share your emotions with those who aren't emotionally mature, they project their own fears and insecurities onto you. Instead of helping you, they drain you further. Their reactions, whether careless, judgmental, or dismissive, weaken your confidence and make you doubt yourself. This is why Buddhist teachings emphasize the power of choosing carefully where you place your emotional energy. Silence is not emotional distance. Silence is protection. Silence preserves your strength. Silence keeps your mind from scattering its power in different directions. When you keep your thoughts within yourself, your energy stays concentrated, focused, and powerful. You think with more clarity. You feel with more depth. You see with more wisdom. You act with more intention. You stop being influenced by the noise outside and start listening to the voice within. People often believe that talking helps them feel lighter. And yes, sometimes it does, but only when spoken to the right person. To the wrong person, talking makes you weaker. It exposes your vulnerability to someone who may not know how to handle it. It gives your emotional weight to someone who may drop it. It opens your heart to someone who may not value it. Silence, however, lets you process your emotions on your own terms. It gives you space to breathe, think, evaluate, and grow without interference. Another powerful aspect of silence is that it helps you regain control of your energy. Instead of constantly reacting to others, you begin responding from a place of strength. You stop feeling the need to justify who you are, why you think the way you do, why you made certain decisions, or why you are changing. You start valuing your peace more than people's opinions. You realize that every moment of silence is a moment where your energy stays with you, instead of being handed away to someone else. And here is the most important truth. When you protect your energy, your life transforms. You stop feeling exhausted by conversations that lead nowhere. You stop feeling mentally drained after sharing your thoughts with the wrong people. You stop feeling emotionally weak from explaining your feelings to those who don't care. Your focus sharpens. Your intuition strengthens. Your presence becomes powerful. You begin to grow quietly, consistently, and deeply, without needing validation from anyone. Silence roots your energy inside you, not outside you. It helps you build an inner foundation that cannot be shaken by others' opinions, judgments, or attitudes. You become calm, centered, balanced, and strong. The Buddha said that peace grows in the minds of those who protect their inner world, and the best protection is silence. When you stop giving pieces of your mind to people who haven't earned them, you reclaim the energy you need to build the life you want. Your energy is precious. Guard it wisely. Protect it fiercely. Do not allow your power to leak through unnecessary conversations, explanations, or emotional openness with people who cannot meet you where you are. The less you give away, the more you grow. 6. Silent growth is the most powerful growth. One of the deepest truths in Buddhism is that real transformation does not happen in the spotlight. It happens in silence, behind closed doors, away from noise, opinions, and expectations. A seed does not grow on the surface where everyone can see it. It grows underground, in darkness, in a place of complete stillness. Only when it has developed strong enough roots does it rise above the soil. Human growth works exactly the same way. Your strength, your character, your wisdom, your maturity, these are not built when you are busy proving yourself to others, but when you are quietly working on yourself without anyone watching. The problem today is that many people feel pressured to announce every step of their journey. They share their plans before they begin them. They share their progress before it becomes real. They share their healing before they are healed. They share their goals before they are ready to take action. They want applause before effort. They want validation before consistency. But in Buddhism, this constant desire to display growth weakens the growth itself. When the process becomes public, the energy that should be fueling your transformation gets scattered into other people's reactions, opinions, doubts, and expectations. Silent growth is different. It is sacred. It is intentional. It is pure. When you grow in silence, nobody interrupts you with their fear. Nobody discourages you with their doubt. Nobody confuses you with their opinions. Nobody pressures you with their expectations. You grow according to your own timing, your own inner wisdom, and your own spiritual rhythm. You become like a tree that grows slowly but deeply, so deeply rooted that nothing can shake it. Silence protects your evolution from outside influence. When people know less about what you're working on, they have less opportunity to interfere with it. They cannot judge what they cannot see. They cannot gossip about what they don't know. They cannot discourage you from a path they are unaware of. They cannot poison your dreams when your dreams live only inside your heart. Silence becomes a spiritual shield that guards your growth from unnecessary negativity. Another powerful truth is that silent growth makes your results stronger. When you keep your journey private, your energy stays concentrated. Instead of using your strength to explain, justify, defend, or prove your progress, you use that strength to evolve. You give your time to learning instead of talking. You give your focus to building instead of seeking validation. You give your effort to practice instead of performance. You give your attention to the inner world rather than the outer world. This deep focus quickens your growth in ways that external noise can never allow. Silent growth is also the most stable kind of growth. When your transformation depends on other people's approval, it collapses the moment their opinion changes. When your motivation comes from applause, it weakens when people stop clapping. When your confidence depends on praise, it disappears as soon as someone criticizes you. But when your growth is silent, it is rooted in self-discipline, self-awareness, and self-trust. It cannot be shaken by anyone because it was never built for anyone. It was built for you. The Buddha emphasized that a peaceful mind grows faster than a noisy one. Silence gives you space to reflect on who you are, what you want, and what truly matters. It allows you to hear your intuition clearly instead of drowning in the chaos of the world. It helps you see patterns within yourself, the habits that hold you back, the fears that control you, the strengths you didn't realize you had. In silence, everything becomes clear. Clarity leads to better decisions. Better decisions lead to better actions. Better actions lead to growth. Silent growth also eliminates comparison. When you keep your life private, you stop measuring your progress against others. You stop worrying about who is ahead of you or behind you. You stop feeling insecure about someone else's achievements. You stop rushing because of other people's pace. You move according to your own journey, not according to the speed of the world. This is why people who grow silently grow authentically. Their transformation is shaped by their own soul, not society's expectations. And here's the most beautiful part. Silent growth shocks people. When you grow loudly, people see every step. They predict your next move. They expect your progress. But when you grow silently, nobody sees the transformation happening. They only see the results. They see the stronger version of you. They see the wiser version of you. They see the calm, grounded, confident version of you. And they wonder, how did this happen? They can't understand it because your growth wasn't performed for them. It was crafted within you. Silent growth creates a version of you that is unrecognizable to your old self and unforgettable to the world. It builds power, resilience, and depth that you could never achieve while explaining yourself, announcing your progress, or seeking validation. The Buddha said that enlightenment begins within, not outside, and the first step to inner transformation is silence. Grow quietly, heal privately, improve silently. Let your results speak when the time is right. A silent journey leads to a loud transformation. 7. A quiet life is a peaceful life, and peace is the highest wealth. In Buddhist teachings, peace is not treated as something small, optional, or secondary. It is seen as the foundation of all forms of success, clarity, happiness, and spiritual awakening. Without peace, nothing in life feels stable. You could have money, but without peace, you cannot enjoy it. You could have relationships, but without peace you cannot feel safe in them. You could have opportunities, but without peace you cannot see them clearly. You could have achievements, but without peace they never feel enough. The Buddha taught that peace is the highest form of wealth, more valuable than gold, more secure than status, more lasting than pleasure, and more necessary than any external accomplishment. And one of the most reliable paths to peace is learning to live quietly, away from unnecessary drama, noise, and emotional chaos. A quiet life does not mean isolation. It does not mean cutting off the world or avoiding people. A quiet life means choosing carefully what you let into your mind, what you allow into your heart, and what you entertain in your daily existence. It means refusing to be pulled into unnecessary arguments, refusing to involve yourself in other people's drama, refusing to explain your decisions to those who misunderstand you, and refusing to share your inner world with people who have not earned that privilege. A quiet life is simply a life lived intentionally, where your mind is protected, your emotions are guarded, your energy is preserved, and your spirit is not constantly reacting to external noise. Many people today are unhappy, not because their lives are truly difficult, but because their minds are overloaded with noise. They consume too much information, share too much online, absorb too many opinions, listen to too many voices, and open themselves to too many unnecessary interactions. They become mentally exhausted without realizing why. The Buddha warned that the mind becomes chaotic when it is constantly exposed to unhealthy stimulation. When you live loudly, always talking, always explaining, always reacting, always sharing, you create a life where peace cannot survive. You allow the world to enter your mind without boundaries, and the world is not gentle. It will disturb your thoughts, upset your heart, and distract your spirit. A quiet life creates emotional breathing space. When you stop oversharing, your emotions settle. When you stop explaining yourself, your mind relaxes. When you stop chasing validation, your spirit rises. When you stop arguing with people who love conflict, your energy stabilizes. When you stop involving yourself in the chaos of others, you begin to see how much peace you were losing without even noticing. Silence becomes a kind of medicine, slow, subtle, but incredibly powerful. It heals your mind, it frees your spirit, it removes the accumulated tension that constant social interaction creates. Buddhism teaches that suffering comes from attachment and aversion, attaching yourself to noise, and avoiding silence because it feels uncomfortable. Many people do not want a quiet life, because quietness forces them to meet themselves. When the external world becomes silent, you must face your inner world, your insecurities, your fears, your desires, your doubts, your truth. This is why people cling to noise. It distracts them from themselves. But true peace only develops when you finally sit with your inner self and understand what is going on within you. Silence is not empty. Silence is where you hear your deepest needs, your most honest fears, and your most authentic calling. A quiet life also teaches you the art of discernment, the ability to differentiate what is truly important from what is merely loud. You begin to see how much of your life was being wasted on things that didn't matter. Unnecessary conversations, fake friendships, toxic relationships, gossip, arguments that led nowhere, expectations that drained your emotions, or habits that cluttered your mind. When you choose a quieter path, your life becomes cleaner. You stop carrying emotional weight that was never yours. You stop responding to things that don't deserve your attention. You stop allowing people to dictate how you feel. Instead, you begin choosing what deserves your energy and what does not. This selective involvement is one of the highest forms of self-respect. Living quietly also gives you the power of invisibility, not literal invisibility, but energetic invisibility. When you stop sharing everything, people cannot predict your next move. They cannot interfere with your plans. They cannot judge decisions they never knew you made. They cannot sabotage dreams they never heard about. Your life becomes protected by silence. You operate in a space where only you and the universe know your next step. And when you eventually take that step, you appear stronger, wiser, calmer, and more grounded than before. Silent progress is the kind that shocks people. A quiet life is a life without emotional noise. And emotional noise is the biggest thief of peace. You lose peace every time you worry about what others think. You lose peace every time you feel pressured to explain a decision. You lose peace every time you get involved in gossip or conflict. You lose peace every time you compare your journey to someone else's. You lose peace every time you let someone's opinion define your worth. When you remove these sources of noise, even without adding anything new, your peace grows on its own naturally, effortlessly, steadily. The Buddha often said that peace does not come from changing the world. It comes from changing your relationship with the world. When you live quietly, the world still exists around you, but it no longer enters your mind in a destructive way. You hear noise, but you do not absorb it. You see drama, but you do not join it. You observe conflict, but you do not engage in it. You feel emotions, but you do not become controlled by them. You allow life to be what it is, without letting it disturb your inner balance. This is true peace, a calm that exists even when chaos is near. A quiet life also brings something even more valuable: inner strength. When you stop reacting to everything, you become emotionally unshakable. When you stop needing recognition, you develop genuine confidence. When you stop explaining yourself, you develop deep self-understanding. When you stop chasing attention, you begin attracting it naturally. People respect those who are not easily moved, who are not desperate for validation, who are comfortable with silence, and who speak only when it is necessary. Quietness builds dignity. Quietness builds presence. Quietness builds character. Another powerful truth is that in silence you hear intuition clearly. Intuition is like a whisper from your higher self, a small, gentle voice that guides you toward what is right and warns you against what is wrong. But intuition cannot be heard in a noisy mind. It becomes drowned beneath the opinions of others, the pressure of society, the weight of expectations, and the noise of constant talking. When your life becomes quiet, your intuition becomes loud. You start noticing subtle signs, inner nudges, unexplained feelings, and deep insights that help you make wiser choices. This is why people who live quietly often make fewer mistakes. Their decisions are guided by clarity, not confusion. A quiet life also deepens your relationship with yourself. You start understanding your needs, your boundaries, your triggers, your desires, and your values. You begin to see where your past is affecting your present. You become aware of patterns you didn't notice before. You understand which habits lift you up and which ones pull you down. Self-awareness grows naturally in silence, and self-awareness is the foundation of self-mastery. Peace is not a reward that others give you. It is a condition you create, and it is created through choices, choosing who you let into your life, choosing what you react to, choosing what you share, choosing what you keep within yourself. A quiet life is a series of wise choices. It is a lifestyle built from inner strength, not external noise. And here is the ultimate truth. The quieter you become, the more aligned you feel with the universe. Your heart becomes lighter, your mind becomes clearer, your soul becomes calmer. You begin to feel a sense of harmony that does not depend on people, circumstances, or achievements. It comes from within, from the space you protect, the silence you nurture, and the boundaries you set. This inner peace becomes your real home, a place you can return to no matter what happens outside you. And once you experience this level of peace, you will never again trade it for drama, noise, or meaningless conversations. You will prefer silence not because you are hiding, but because you have finally understood its value. A quiet life is a peaceful life. A peaceful life is a powerful life, and a powerful life is a blessed life. 8. Protect your inner world. Not everyone deserves a seat in your soul. In Buddhist wisdom, the inner world, your thoughts, your emotions, your intentions, your spiritual energy, is considered the most sacred space you have. It is the home of your peace, the birthplace of your decisions, the center of your intuition, and the private sanctuary where your true self exists without fear, without pressure, without masks. But most people make a painful mistake. They allow too many people into this sacred space, often without thinking, without filtering, and without realizing the damage it causes. They let people enter their emotional world casually, like guests walking into a room with muddy shoes. They let others' opinions, judgments, and behaviors shape their mood, weaken their confidence, and influence their growth. What the Buddha taught is this: if you do not guard your inner world, the world will take it from you. Your inner world is like a garden. If you leave the gates open, anyone can walk in. Some will appreciate the flowers, some will trample them, some will plant seeds of kindness, others will leave behind weeds of doubt, envy, or negativity. And if you are not careful, the wrong people can destroy the garden before you even realize what happened. Protecting your inner world is not selfishness, it is wisdom. It is the understanding that your soul needs boundaries the same way your home needs walls. Without boundaries, nothing stays safe. People often misunderstand boundaries, thinking they are about shutting others out. But in Buddhism, boundaries are not walls that keep people away. They are filters that allow the right energy in. A boundary is not a rejection. It is a form of self-respect. It is the quiet declaration that your peace matters, your heart matters, your emotions matter, your time matters, and your spiritual path matters. You cannot grow when you allow just anyone to influence your thoughts and feelings. You cannot evolve when your mind is filled with noise from people who do not understand your journey. You cannot be happy when your emotions depend on people who are inconsistent, careless, or emotionally unstable. Protecting your inner world begins with understanding that not everyone deserves access to you. Not everyone should know your plans. Not everyone should hear your fears. Not everyone should witness your healing. Not everyone should be invited into your silence. Some people do not have the emotional maturity to handle your vulnerability. Some do not have the sincerity to hold your truth without twisting it. Some do not have the purity of heart to celebrate your growth. Sharing with the wrong people is like watering a plant with poison. It destroys what you are trying to grow. The Buddha taught that suffering often comes from misplaced attachment. When you attach your self-worth to people who do not value you, you suffer. When you attach your peace to people who bring chaos, you suffer. When you attach your energy to people who drain you, you suffer. Protecting your inner world means detaching yourself from those who harm your soul, not through anger, not through hatred, but through calm clarity. It means seeing people as they truly are, not as you wish they were. It means accepting that some people are not meant to walk inside your heart. Your inner world also contains your intuition, the quiet voice that guides you toward what is right and warns you against what is wrong. But intuition cannot be heard when the inner world is crowded with noise. Noise from overthinking, noise from fear, noise from outside opinions, noise from people who keep talking but never understand. A protected inner world is a quiet inner world, where intuition becomes the dominant voice. You begin to sense who is genuine and who is pretending. You begin to sense which path feels aligned and which one feels forced. You begin to sense when something is not good for your soul, even if it looks perfect on the surface. This intuitive clarity is only possible when your inner world is shielded from external interference. Another important aspect of protecting your inner world is learning the art of selective vulnerability. Vulnerability is not weakness, it is strength, but it is only strength when shared with the right people. Vulnerability becomes weakness when given to those who use it against you. So many people today experience emotional pain because they shared too much with someone who never deserved that level of closeness. They opened their hearts to someone who only wanted temporary entertainment. They revealed their fears to someone who later used those fears to manipulate them. They expressed their dreams to someone who subtly discouraged them because their growth triggered jealousy. In Buddhism, the wise share selectively. They observe before they open. They test sincerity before they trust deeply. They reveal their soul only to those who have shown consistent purity of heart. Your inner world also holds your emotional balance. When the wrong people enter this space, your emotions become unstable. You begin to mirror their negativity. You absorb their insecurities. You react to their moods. You carry their emotional baggage as if it were your own. This emotional entanglement drains your energy and weakens your spiritual foundation. Protecting your inner world means refusing to absorb negativity that does not belong to you. It means not taking responsibility for emotions that are not yours. It means letting people carry their own burdens instead of placing them on your shoulders. Some people take advantage of your kindness because they can sense that you keep your heart open. They enter your inner world not to appreciate it, but to take from it. They seek comfort, validation, attention, or emotional support without giving anything in return. They leave you empty, tired, and depleted. Protecting your inner world means recognizing these patterns and stepping back quietly. It means giving without losing yourself. It means loving without abandoning your own needs. It means helping others without destroying your peace. A protected inner world also allows your inner child to heal. Inside every person is a younger self, the version of you that felt abandoned, misunderstood, neglected, or unheard. That inner child needs safety to heal, and safety only exists when your inner world is protected. When you allow toxic people into your emotional space, your inner child feels unsafe again. But when you create boundaries, silence, and peace, your inner child thrives. You grow emotionally, you forgive yourself, You rediscover confidence. You learn how to be gentle with yourself again. Protecting your inner world also strengthens your individuality. When you stop letting others shape your emotions, your identity becomes clearer. You stop living for approval. You stop adjusting yourself to fit what others want. You stop performing to avoid judgment. You become authentic. You become grounded. You become someone who no longer betrays their own truth for the comfort of others. A protected inner world gives birth to a strong sense of self, unshakable, confident, and deeply connected to your purpose. Buddhism teaches that true peace comes not from controlling the world, but from controlling your internal relationship with the world. When you live without boundaries, the world enters your mind freely and disrupts your balance. But when you create strong inner protection, the world may still be loud, but your soul remains silent and steady. You become the calm in the middle of the storm. You become the stillness beneath all the noise. You become the kind of person whose peace does not depend on the behavior of others. Not everyone deserves a seat in your soul. Some people should stay at the door. Some should remain outside the gate. Others should not even know where the gate is. Your inner world is holy ground. Do not let unworthy feet walk on it. The more you protect it, the more you grow. The more you guard it, the more peaceful you become. The more you honor it, the more powerful your spirit becomes. Protect your inner world. Protect your peace. Protect your heart. This is how true spiritual strength is built. 9. Your silence creates a life only peaceful souls can enter. In Buddhist teachings, silence is not just the absence of sound, it is the presence of awareness, clarity, intention, and spiritual power. Silence is a language of its own, spoken by the wise, understood by the peaceful, and feared by the insecure. People who live chaotically cannot sit with silence because silence exposes truths they are running from. People who rely on noise, drama, or constant stimulation feel threatened when they meet someone who is calm, grounded, and quiet. That is why your silence is not just a habit, it is a boundary, a filter, a shield, and a form of self-respect. It creates a life that only peaceful souls can enter. The Buddha taught that the mind becomes like the environment it lives in. If you let your life be filled with noise, chaos, and unnecessary stimulation, your mind mirrors that noise. It becomes restless, confused, anxious, easily influenced, and emotionally unstable. But when you build your life around silence, your mind becomes clear, steady, sharp, and deeply connected to your inner truth. The world outside may remain chaotic, but your inner world becomes untouched, like a still lake beneath a stormy sky. That stillness cannot be bought, forced, or faked. It grows only in silence. People often misunderstand silence, thinking it means weakness, shyness, or lack of confidence. But silence is the opposite. Silence is self-control. Silence is emotional intelligence. Silence is understanding that not every thought must become a sentence, not every feeling must become a speech, not every reaction must become a conversation. Silence means you no longer waste your energy explaining yourself to those who misunderstand you, arguing with those who enjoy conflict, or trying to prove your worth to those who cannot see it. Silence means you have matured spiritually. You have realized that peace is more valuable than being right, and that inner balance is more important than outer approval. When you begin to live in silence, something powerful happens. The wrong people stop approaching you. Chaotic people avoid silence because silence exposes their chaos. Manipulative people avoid silent minds because they cannot control them. Jealous people avoid silent growth because they cannot predict or interfere with it. People who thrive on gossip, drama, or emotional manipulation cannot enter a silent person's life, not because you push them away, but because they naturally feel out of place. Your silence becomes a spiritual barrier they cannot cross. Silence strips relationships down to their truth. When you stop oversharing, you begin to see who checks on you because they care, and who checked on you because they wanted information. When you stop talking about your goals, you see who supports you for who you are, and who supported you only because they wanted access. When you stop giving people unlimited emotional access, you see who stays because of your heart, and who leaves because they can no longer feed on your energy. This clarity is priceless, and silence is the only path to seeing it. The Buddha taught that attachment creates suffering, and one of the strongest attachments people develop is the attachment to approval. When you constantly speak, explain, justify, and share, you attach your worth to external reactions. You lose yourself in people's opinions. But silence breaks that attachment. Silence reminds you that your value does not depend on how well you explain yourself. Your worth does not depend on how many people agree with you. Your peace does not depend on how others perceive your decisions. Silence teaches you to detach from the need for recognition and reconnect with the truth inside your own heart. One of the most beautiful transformations happens when you learn to stay silent in moments where you previously felt the urge to defend yourself. When someone misunderstands you, you no longer rush to correct them. When someone criticizes you unfairly, you no longer react emotionally. When someone tries to trigger you, you no longer fall into their trap. You become unbothered. Not because you don't care, but because you finally understand that clarity does not require explanation and truth does not need an audience. Your silence becomes your backbone, strong, steady, unshakable. Silence also protects your emotional health. Every time you speak about something deeply personal, you open a door for someone's opinion to affect you. Every time you explain your decisions, you give others permission to judge them. Every time you share your dreams, you allow someone's doubt to weaken your belief. But when you keep things inside until they are ready, your emotional energy stays whole. Your mind feels lighter. Your soul feels safer. You learn to trust yourself, not because the world believes in you, but because silence taught you to believe in yourself. In Buddhist thought, silence is also a form of inner cleansing. When you stop talking, your mind begins to organize the thoughts you ignored. You begin to process emotions you suppressed. You begin to release old memories that quietly burdened you. You begin to understand hidden fears that influenced your actions. Silence is like a mirror that reflects your inner self, and only in silence can you truly face your truth. This is why people who fear their own mind avoid silence, while those who seek enlightenment embrace it. Your silence will also attract a different type of person into your life. Loud souls attract loud souls. Chaotic souls attract chaotic souls. But when you become quiet, peaceful, selective, and spiritually grounded, you begin to attract people who appreciate depth, presence, honesty, and emotional maturity. These are people who do not fear your silence but feel safe inside it. People who do not demand explanations but understand through energy. People who do not drain your spirit but contribute to your peace. Silence repels the wrong souls, and reveals the right ones. Another important truth is that silence increases your inner power. When you stop speaking unnecessarily, your words gain weight. When you do speak, people pay attention. Your presence feels stronger. Your voice feels more meaningful. Silence sharpens your intuition, strengthens your emotional boundaries, deepens your awareness, and heightens your spiritual presence. You become someone who moves differently, calm, grounded, wise. People may not understand how you became this way, but they will feel the difference. Silence also exposes the lies around you. When you stop speaking, you see who lies without being provoked. You see who talks unnecessarily to fill the space. You see who becomes uncomfortable when they no longer have access to your mind. You see who reveals their intentions when you no longer reveal yours. When you are silent, others reveal themselves. This is one of the greatest gifts silence gives, the truth. And here is the deepest part. Silence creates a life where your peace is protected from every direction. You begin to live in a quiet rhythm, doing your work, guarding your energy, healing your wounds, growing your mind, shaping your spirit, and building your life. Nobody knows your next move. Nobody knows your weaknesses. Nobody knows your dreams until they become reality. Nobody knows your struggles until they have already become strengths. You live in a way that cannot be touched by jealousy, gossip, negativity, or interference. Your silence becomes a lifestyle, and that lifestyle becomes your sanctuary. A silent life is not an empty life. It is a focused life, a strong life, a life built on intention, not reaction, a life where your happiness comes from inner harmony, not from outer validation. The Buddha taught that enlightenment begins when the mind becomes quiet, and peace begins when the heart stops chasing noise. When you embrace silence, you enter a new dimension of living, a place where your soul feels safe, your mind feels clear, and your heart feels light. A place where only peaceful souls can enter, a place that belongs entirely to you. Your silence is not your weakness, it is your wisdom. It is your protection. It is your strength. It is your spiritual identity. Guard it. Honor it. Live by it. 10. Your peace becomes unbreakable when you stop letting people inside your mind. One of the most profound truths in Buddhism is that the real battlefield is not outside you. It is inside your mind. Everything you experience in life is filtered through your mental state. If your mind is peaceful, even the hardest days feel manageable. If your mind is chaotic, even small problems feel unbearable. The Buddha taught that protecting the mind is the greatest form of self-care, and the fastest way to lose peace is by allowing too many people to enter your mental space. The more people you let influence your thoughts, your emotions, your decisions, and your identity, the less control you have over your inner world. But the moment you take that control back, the moment you stop letting people live inside your mind, your peace becomes unbreakable. People today suffer not because their lives are truly unbearable, but because their minds are overcrowded. Overcrowded with expectations, opinions, judgments, comparisons, memories, emotional baggage, and unnecessary attachments. Most of this mental clutter does not belong to you. It came from people who should never have had access to your mind in the first place. A careless comment from someone you barely know. A judgment from someone who does not understand you. A piece of advice from someone who has not lived your path. A criticism from someone projecting their own insecurities. These tiny intrusions enter your mind, lodge themselves inside, and begin shaping how you think and feel. Slowly, without realizing it, you start living inside someone else's perspective instead of your own. The Buddha taught that suffering begins when the mind clings. And one of the worst attachments is mental attachment to other people's opinions. When you allow someone else's voice to become louder than your own, you become disconnected from yourself. You stop hearing your intuition. You stop trusting your decisions. You stop believing in your own path. You begin adjusting your choices not according to what brings you peace, but according to what keeps others satisfied. This is how people lose their identity, not by force, but by slowly giving away pieces of their mind to those who do not deserve them. And here is the painful truth. Most people who try to influence your mind are not thinking of your well-being. They speak from their fears, not your potential. They speak from their limitations, not your possibilities. They speak from their insecurities, not your truth. If you let these voices guide your life, you will shrink yourself to fit their comfort zones. You will dim your light to avoid triggering their jealousy. You will stay small because they feel threatened by your growth. Your mind becomes a prison built from other people's expectations. But when you stop letting people enter your mind, everything changes. You begin to think clearly, without the fog of external opinions. You begin to feel grounded in your own truth, not the borrowed beliefs of others. Your decisions become aligned with your inner wisdom. Your emotions stop being controlled by outside forces. Your confidence becomes authentic, not something that relies on validation, but something that grows from self-understanding. Silence protects your mind. Boundaries protect your mind. Privacy protects your mind. Selective connection protects your mind. And when your mind is protected, your peace becomes unbreakable. Another reason your peace becomes stronger when you stop letting people in is that your mental energy becomes concentrated. Every time you think about someone's approval, someone's judgment, or someone's opinion, you drain energy that could have been used for your growth, healing, goals, or spiritual development. This is why so many people feel tired without doing anything. Their exhaustion doesn't come from physical labor, it comes from mental exposure. Too many people inside their mind taking up space, energy, and emotional bandwidth. When you close the doors of your mind and stop allowing unnecessary influences, that mental energy returns to you. Suddenly you feel lighter, stronger, more awake, more focused, more productive, more spiritually aware. Peace is not the absence of work, it is the absence of mental drain. Another important Buddhist teaching is that your mind creates your reality. If your mind is disturbed, your life feels disturbed. If your mind is calm, your life feels balanced. When you allow others to shape your thoughts, you allow them to shape your reality. And most people do not have the clarity, maturity, or emotional stability to guide your mind. Some people plant seeds of doubt. Some plant seeds of fear. Some plant seeds of comparison. Some plant seeds of guilt. Some plant seeds of insecurity. These seeds grow into mental weeds that suffocate your inner peace. But when you stop letting people into your mind, these seeds never get planted. Your inner world remains a garden of calmness, clarity, and resilience. Buddhist monks often say that silence is the home of the mind. When you keep your inner world silent, free from unnecessary judgments, opinions, conversations, and noise, your mind returns to its natural, peaceful state. You begin to hear your own thoughts clearly. You begin to trust your intuition deeply. You begin to recognize what is truly meant for you. You begin to understand that your path is unique and nobody else has the right to shape it. This inner silence is not emptiness, it is fullness. Fullness of awareness, fullness of connection, fullness of presence. When you stop letting people inside your mind, you stop living reactively. You stop being controlled by people's moods, comments, attitudes, or behaviors. Someone's anger no longer shakes you. Someone's jealousy no longer scares you. Someone's silence no longer confuses you. Someone's rejection no longer breaks you. Someone's misunderstanding no longer wounds you. You rise above their emotional storms. You become like a mountain, grounded, unmovable, peaceful in your own presence. One of the most liberating moments of your life will be when you realize that peace does not come from controlling others. Peace comes from controlling who you allow inside your mind. Not everyone gets a seat. Not everyone gets a voice. Not everyone gets access to your inner thoughts. Your mind is your home. You decide who enters. You decide who stays. You decide who must leave. And you decide who never gets in at all. This inner freedom also makes your relationships healthier. When your mind is not dominated by fear, insecurity, or overthinking, you can love more authentically. You can communicate more mindfully. You can connect more deeply. You can choose partners and friends, not from desperation, but from clarity. You surround yourself with people who respect your boundaries, not those who try to break them. You attract souls who appreciate your peaceful nature, not those who disturb it. You enter relationships from a place of fullness, not emptiness. Your silence also teaches others how to treat you. When you stop over-explaining, people learn not to demand explanations. When you stop sharing every detail, people learn to respect your privacy. When you stop reacting, people learn that your peace cannot be manipulated. When you stop allowing emotional access, people learn that your mind is not a playground. Silence has power because it communicates boundaries without words. It teaches others that you know your worth, and you will not let anyone project their chaos into your life. And here is the most profound truth. When you master the art of protecting your mind, nothing outside you has the power to break your peace. Life will still challenge you, but your mind will remain steady. People may still misunderstand you, but your self-understanding will remain strong. Situations may still cause stress, but your inner calm will not disappear. You stop being controlled by external conditions. You begin living from the inside out, not outside in. This is true spiritual freedom. Your mind is the birthplace of your entire life experience. Protect it with intention. Guard it with silence. Strengthen it with boundaries. Honor it with solitude. Nourish it with clarity. Free it from noise. Fill it with peace. This is how your inner world becomes unbreakable, and once your inner world becomes unbreakable, your entire life transforms. 11. You become unshakable when you stop reacting to every little thing. In Buddhism, one of the highest forms of strength is non-reactivity, the ability to remain calm, stable, and grounded even when the world around you is loud, messy, or emotionally triggering. The Buddha taught that pain is often not the problem. Our reaction to the pain is what multiplies our suffering. Most people today are exhausted not because life is unbearable, but because they react to everything. Every comment, every opinion, every situation, every mood swing, every piece of negativity, every misunderstanding. They feel obligated to respond, defend, explain, correct, fight, justify, or engage even when none of it is necessary. This constant reactivity drains their peace, weakens their energy, and steals their happiness. But the moment you learn to stop reacting, your inner world becomes unshakable. The truth is simple. The more reactive you are, the more control the world has over you. People know exactly which buttons to push. Situations dictate your emotions. The smallest inconvenience ruins your day. Someone else's mood becomes your mood. Someone else's problem becomes your stress. Someone else's comment becomes your insecurity. You lose yourself in the chaos of other people's behavior, and before you know it, your entire emotional state depends on things outside your control. Buddhism teaches that this is the fastest path to suffering, letting the external world control your internal world. Reactivity is the chain that binds you to that suffering. But when you stop reacting, you break the chain. You reclaim your power. You stop letting people rent space inside your mind. You stop letting small things steal your peace. You stop allowing every emotion to become a storm. You begin to live from a place of stillness, a place where nothing can shake you unless you allow it to. Non-reactivity is not numbness. It is not weakness. It is not indifference. It is emotional mastery. It is the ability to feel fully without losing your balance. It is the strength to observe without getting entangled. It is the wisdom to choose your responses instead of acting out of impulse. It is the maturity to understand that not every situation deserves your attention, and not every comment deserves your energy. When you stop reacting, you stop participating in unnecessary drama. You stop feeding conflicts that don't matter. You stop involving yourself in chaos that isn't yours. And you stop giving your power to people who haven't earned it. One of the most powerful changes happens internally. Your nervous system begins to relax. Constant reactivity keeps your body in a state of stress, tension, and emotional overload. Your mind stays on high alert, always ready to protect itself, defend itself, or compare itself. But when you stop reacting, your body shifts into calmness. Your mind becomes like a lake that no longer churns with every passing wind. Your spirit feels lighter. Your breathing becomes deeper. Your presence becomes steadier. You begin to feel peace, not as a temporary emotion, but as your natural state. Another important Buddhist teaching is that reacting quickly is often reacting blindly. Most people don't respond to what actually happened. They respond to the story they created in their mind. A comment from someone becomes an attack. A delay becomes rejection. A disagreement becomes disrespect. A normal mistake becomes a personal insult. Their mind fills in gaps with fear, insecurity, and assumptions, and they react to that mental story instead of the truth. But when you stop reacting, you break this pattern. You give yourself the space to see clearly. You begin to understand situations without emotional distortion. You stop taking things personally. You start recognizing when something isn't about you at all. You stop making assumptions, and clarity becomes your guide. When you stop reacting, people lose the power to manipulate your emotions. Manipulative people rely on your reactivity. They want you to explode so they can call you unreasonable. They want you to defend yourself so they can twist your words. They want you to engage so they can pull you into their drama. But when you remain calm, they lose control. Your stillness exposes their chaos. Your silence reveals their intentions. Your emotional stability becomes a mirror that reflects their insecurity. People cannot control what they cannot emotionally trigger. Your non-reactivity also transforms your relationships. When you stop reacting emotionally to every small thing, conflicts become easier to solve. Conversations become calmer. Arguments lose their fire. People feel safer around you because they know your emotions are stable. You listen better. You understand deeper. You communicate with clarity instead of intensity. This creates healthier connections built on respect and presence rather than ego and defensiveness. One of the greatest gifts of non-reactivity is that it frees you from unnecessary suffering. You will notice that when you stop reacting, 90% of the things that used to upset you no longer matter. Someone's rudeness no longer disturbs your peace. Someone's mood no longer controls your day. Someone's misunderstanding no longer becomes your burden. Someone ignoring you no longer hurts because your self-worth isn't tied to their attention. You begin to see how much suffering you created for yourself simply by reacting to things that were not worthy of your energy. The Buddha taught that mastery begins when you can endure discomfort without losing your center. Life will always test you. People will disappoint you. Situations will frustrate you. Emotions will overwhelm you. But when you stop reacting impulsively, you respond from wisdom instead of pain. You make decisions that align with your peace instead of your anger. You choose silence over arguments. You choose distance over conflict. You choose understanding over judgment. You choose calmness over chaos. This is how inner strength grows, not through force, but through stillness. Not reacting does not mean letting others walk over you. It means choosing your battles wisely. It means standing firm without shouting. It means having boundaries without emotional outbursts. It means walking away when something disturbs your peace, instead of fighting to prove a point. It means allowing people to be who they are without letting it define who you are. It means protecting your energy so fiercely that nothing outside you can destroy what is happening inside you. When you stop reacting, you begin to live with intention. Your life stops being a series of emotional reactions and becomes a series of wise choices. You understand that peace is more valuable than winning an argument. Your mental health is more important than proving someone wrong. Your spiritual growth is more precious than feeding your ego. You no longer seek validation through emotional expression. You seek understanding through inner stability. And here's the deepest truth. Non-reactivity makes you untouchable. People may talk about you, but you won't react. They may misunderstand you, but you won't chase clarification. They may try to provoke you, but you won't give them the satisfaction. They may try to pull you into chaos, but your silence becomes your refusal. When you stop reacting, you become unpredictable, unreadable, and uncontrollable. Nobody knows how to shake you because nothing shakes you unless you allow it. Your calmness becomes your power. Your silence becomes your shield. Your stability becomes your identity. Your peace becomes your strength. And your non-reactivity becomes the reason you rise above everything that once hurt you. This is how you become unshakable. This is how you build a life that nothing and no one can disturb. This is how you walk the Buddhist path of peace, not by controlling the world, but by mastering yourself. 12. You finally grow when you stop explaining your pain to those who can't feel it. One of the deepest sources of human suffering comes from trying to make others understand what they were never meant to understand. You try to explain your pain to someone who has never lived your wounds. You try to justify your changes to someone who has never changed themselves. You try to make someone see your intentions when their heart was never open enough to see beyond their own insecurities. You try to make someone understand your silence when their mind has never experienced peace. And in this endless cycle of explaining, you drain the very energy you need to heal, evolve, and grow. The Buddha taught that not every truth is meant for every ear, and not every feeling can be understood by every heart. Some people live at a level of consciousness where your depth becomes confusing to them. Your silence feels like distance. Your healing feels like arrogance. Your boundaries feel like disrespect. Your growth feels like rejection. Your emotional honesty feels like conflict. Your desire for peace feels like withdrawal. And the hardest lesson is realizing that no matter how much you explain, they will only hear you from the level at which they are operating. They cannot feel what you feel because their inner world has not evolved enough to meet you where you are. When you keep explaining your pain to the wrong people, you turn your healing wounds into bleeding wounds. You open what should remain closed. You expose what is still fragile. You allow others to touch the parts of you they have no capacity to hold gently. And instead of comfort, you receive confusion. Instead of understanding, you receive judgment. Instead of empathy, you receive advice based on their limited awareness. Instead of support, you receive invalidation. The Buddha warned that we suffer not because others hurt us, but because we expect them to understand us. And expecting emotional depth from shallow people is like expecting light from a candle that was never lit. You grow the moment you stop explaining your pain to those who can't feel it. Because pain is not understood with the mind, it is understood with the heart. Only those who have suffered silently will understand your silence. Only those who have healed themselves will respect your healing. Only those who value peace will respect your boundaries. Only those who carry depth within them will recognize the depth within you. And only those who have walked through darkness will truly see the strength in the way you now protect your light. One of the most liberating Buddhist truths is this: your healing is your own path, not a group project. You do not need participation from others. You do not need permission. You do not need validation. You do not need applause. Healing is not something you perform. It is something you experience. It happens inside your private world, not in conversations where you try to convince others that your pain was real. If someone genuinely cares, they will understand even without explanation. If someone doesn't care, no amount of explanation will ever make them understand. Every time you explain your pain, you involve your mind in cycles of emotional reopening. You re-enter memories you are trying to leave behind. You invite emotions that were beginning to settle. You allow your heart to revisit storms it was finally stepping out of. Healing requires silence, because silence calms the storm inside you. Talking about your pain to unreceptive souls keeps the storm alive. Another powerful reason to stop explaining your pain is this: not everyone wants you healed. Some people benefit from your brokenness because your silence gives them power. Some people benefit from your lack of confidence because it keeps you from outgrowing them. Some people benefit from your confusion because clarity would make you see their real intentions. Some people benefit from your emotional wounds because they can manipulate or belittle you more easily. Your healing threatens them because a healed version of you is someone they can no longer control. When you stop explaining your pain, you take your power back. You close emotional access that was being misused. You take your heart away from people who held it with careless hands. You stop giving explanations to people who only listen to find something to attack. You stop searching for comfort from those who enjoy your weakness. You stop asking for understanding from those who have never understood themselves. You stop expecting depth from those who fear their own shadows. This is where Buddhist wisdom becomes transformative. Peace grows when unnecessary conversations die. Your growth accelerates when your energy stops leaking through explanations. Your clarity expands when your mind stops worrying about who understands your pain. Your self-love strengthens when you stop sharing your wounds with those who don't deserve access to them. Your emotional stability deepens when your heart no longer gets pulled back into old stories simply to convince someone else that your story matters. You also rise spiritually the moment you understand that pain has a sacred purpose, and that purpose does not require an audience. Pain teaches you resilience. Pain teaches you boundaries. Pain teaches you emotional intelligence. Pain teaches you self-awareness. Pain teaches you who deserves to stay in your life and who never should have been allowed in. Pain teaches you the value of your peace. Pain teaches you silence. Trying to explain pain to someone who has not learned these lessons wastes the lessons entirely. Another deep Buddhist truth is that growth requires privacy. When you stop explaining yourself, you create emotional space where healing can breathe. You allow your heart to recover without interruption. You allow your mind to reorganize itself without distraction. You allow your soul to realign without judgment. You begin to experience healing not as something dramatic or loud, but as something subtle, quiet, and deeply internal. You start noticing small shifts, fewer reactions, fewer triggers, fewer emotional spirals, fewer attachments, fewer expectations, and more peace. And the most beautiful part? When you stop explaining your pain, the right people will show up without needing explanations. They will understand your silence. They will respect your boundaries. They will feel your energy. They will know how to hold space for you. They will listen without interrupting. They will care without conditions. They will meet you where you are without demanding that you shrink back into who you used to be. These are the souls your healing was always destined to attract. But the moment you stop explaining, something even deeper happens inside you. You learn to validate yourself. You begin trusting your emotions. You stop asking permission to feel. You stop apologizing for your journey. You stop justifying your boundaries. You stop defending your growth. You stop needing others to confirm your worth. You stop looking outward for comfort and start looking inward for strength. This is the spiritual shift that turns a wounded person into a wise person. Eventually, you reach a point where you no longer feel the urge to explain anything, not your past, not your pain, not your choices, not your silence, not your healing, not your distance, not your boundaries. You become rooted in your truth. You understand that your emotional world belongs to you. You know that your growth makes sense even if nobody else sees it. You know that your healing is real even if nobody else understands it. You know that your journey is sacred even if nobody else believes in it. And that is when you truly grow. Not when others understand you, but when you no longer need them to. Your peace deepens. Your heart strengthens. Your mind clears. Your healing accelerates. Your life transforms. You become someone who does not break from misunderstanding, You become someone who does not bend from judgment. You become someone who does not shrink from lack of support. You become someone who does not crumble from emotional isolation. You become someone whose silence is more powerful than 1,000 explanations. This is the moment you transcend the old version of yourself. The moment you evolve beyond emotional dependence. The moment you rise into your highest spiritual identity. The moment you walk the Buddhist path of liberation. You grow the moment you stop explaining your pain to those who were never meant to feel it. 13. Your life evolves the moment you stop seeking validation from empty souls. One of the most powerful shifts on the Buddhist path happens when you finally stop seeking validation from people whose hearts are not even connected to their own truth. Most people spend their lives performing for others. They dress to impress others, speak to please others, explain themselves to convince others, post online to be seen by others, and shape their identity according to what others approve of. They become prisoners of an audience that isn't even paying attention. They lose themselves in the search for validation from people who are themselves lost, confused, insecure, emotionally blind, or spiritually shallow. But when you stop seeking validation from empty souls, you reclaim your life, your worth, and your peace. The Buddha taught that one of the greatest sources of suffering is the illusion that happiness exists in the eyes of others. This illusion destroys inner peace because it traps you in a constant hunger for approval. You feel good only when others approve. You feel confident only when others appreciate. You feel worthy only when others praise. You feel successful only when others notice. Your entire emotional world becomes dependent on how others respond to you, and these others are often people who have never truly looked inward, never healed themselves, never built real self-respect, and never learned how to honor their own soul. You shape your worth based on the opinions of people who do not even understand their own worth. This is the spiritual equivalent of drinking from an empty cup and expecting to be nourished. Validation is dangerous because it gives your power away. Every time you seek approval, you silently hand someone the authority to judge your existence. You tell them, "Your opinion of me is more important than my belief in myself." But most people's opinions are shaped by their insecurities, not your truth. They judge you based on their jealousy. They criticize you based on their fears. They ignore you based on their emotional immaturity. They discourage you based on their own limitations. And when you seek validation from them, you turn their wounds into your weakness. The moment you stop seeking validation, something extraordinary happens inside you. You begin to meet your true self for the first time. Without the pressure to impress anyone, you start making decisions based on peace, not approval. You stop dressing for attention and start dressing for comfort and confidence. You stop speaking to be liked and start speaking to be understood. You stop doing things to look successful and start doing things that feel meaningful. You stop performing and start living. This shift feels like taking off a heavy mask you didn't realize you were wearing. Another deep Buddhist teaching is that what you seek controls you. If you seek approval, you become controlled by those who give or withhold it. If you seek validation, you become a follower of opinions, constantly chasing after the next compliment, the next nod, the next, "Yes, you're doing well." This turns you into a spiritual beggar, someone who lives on emotional crumbs handed out by others. But when you stop seeking validation, you take back control of your identity. You no longer live for applause. You live for alignment. You no longer chase acceptance. You choose authenticity. You no longer fear rejection. You understand that rejection simply redirects you toward your true path. When you stop seeking validation, you free yourself from fear. Fear of being misunderstood, fear of being judged, fear of being disliked, fear of being different, fear of being alone. Most people's fear does not come from real danger. It comes from the possibility that someone might not approve. But Buddhist wisdom reveals that the moment you stop seeking approval, fear loses its hold. You start doing what needs to be done without worrying about how it looks. You speak your truth, even if it makes others uncomfortable. You pursue your purpose, even if others do not understand it. You protect your peace, even if others call you selfish. You choose your path, even if others choose another one. This level of freedom cannot be bought. It is earned by releasing the need to be validated. One of the most painful but essential lessons is this: most people cannot validate you because they cannot even validate themselves. They don't know who they are. They don't know what they want. They don't know why they feel lost. They don't know how to love themselves. Insecurity cannot validate confidence. Confusion cannot validate clarity. Jealousy cannot validate success. Emptiness cannot validate depth. When you understand this, you stop taking their opinions seriously. You stop believing that their rejection means something is wrong with you. You stop believing that their lack of recognition means you are not enough. You stop believing that their silence means your efforts are meaningless. You stop personalizing what was never about you in the first place. Your growth accelerates dramatically when you stop performing for approval. Approval slows growth because it makes you play safe. When you seek validation, you choose paths that are comfortable for others, not paths that are right for you. You avoid risks because failure might attract judgment. You avoid change because change might invite criticism. You avoid boundaries because boundaries might disappoint people. You avoid authenticity because authenticity might expose you. And slowly, your life becomes smaller, tighter, more predictable, and less fulfilling. But when you stop seeking validation, you begin to live expansively. You take risks. You evolve. You make bold choices. You outgrow your environment. You step into your highest potential. Another beautiful transformation happens. You become emotionally self-sufficient. Instead of depending on others to tell you who you are, you begin telling yourself. You start validating your own feelings, acknowledging your own experiences, honoring your own pain, and celebrating your own progress. You no longer need applause because you celebrate your own wins. You no longer need praise because your self-respect is enough. You no longer need recognition because your inner alignment feels more rewarding than any external approval could ever feel. And here's the deeper part. When you stop seeking validation, you begin attracting people who respect your truth, not your performance. You attract those who value your presence, not your compliance. Those who admire your depth, not your appearance. Those who appreciate your authenticity, not your effort to fit in. Your relationships become healthier, deeper, more peaceful, and more genuine because they are built on truth instead of expectation. You stop attracting people who feed on your insecurities and start attracting people who respect your boundaries. Buddhism teaches that the highest form of freedom is inner independence. This is the state where your mind is no longer influenced by the judgments of others. When someone praises you, you remain grounded. When someone criticizes you, you remain calm. When someone misunderstands you, you remain centered. When someone rejects you, you remain whole. Your emotional world no longer swings according to external reactions. This stability is one of the signs of spiritual maturity, and it begins the moment you stop seeking validation. Your silence grows, your peace deepens, your presence strengthens, your aura becomes calm and powerful, your mind becomes clear, your decisions become mindful, your confidence becomes internal. This is how you evolve, not by being liked by everyone, but by being deeply aligned with yourself. And the final truth is this: validation was never what you needed. It was what you were conditioned to chase. Your soul was never looking for approval. It was looking for authenticity, belonging, purpose, and truth. You finally grow the moment you stop seeking validation from empty souls and start seeking truth inside yourself. 14. You become truly free when you stop letting people's opinions control your destiny. One of the greatest traps a human being can fall into is letting other people's opinions guide their life. From childhood, you are conditioned to look outward to ask, what will people think? Will they approve? Will they judge me? Will they accept me? Will they criticize me? These questions become chains around your mind. You begin shaping your choices, your dreams, your identity, and your destiny according to the expectations of people who will never live your life, never feel your pain, never walk your journey, and never understand your soul. The Buddha taught that liberation begins when the mind stops being enslaved by the eyes of others. You become truly free only when you stop letting people's opinions control your destiny. The deepest suffering comes from trying to please the world, because the world itself is inconsistent. People change their opinions based on their emotions, their circumstances, their insecurities, their jealousy, or their confusion. Someone who admires you today may envy you tomorrow. Someone who supports you now may criticize you later. Someone who praises you when you are small may resent you when you grow. If you build your life on these unstable foundations, your peace will collapse every time someone changes their mind about you. But when you build your life on your own truth, no opinion, whether praise or criticism, has the power to shake your inner world. Most people don't even have control over their own life, yet they feel entitled to tell you how to live yours. They haven't healed their wounds, yet they judge your healing. They haven't overcome their fears, yet they criticize your courage. They haven't pursued their dreams, yet they mock your ambition. They haven't mastered their emotions, yet they comment on your reactions. They haven't found their purpose, yet they question your direction. The Buddha warned that listening to the ignorant is the fastest path to confusion. When you allow such people to influence your decisions, you surrender your destiny to their limitations. And here is the truth. People's opinions say more about them than about you. If someone is insecure, your confidence triggers them. If someone is jealous, your success irritates them. If someone is emotionally immature, your boundaries offend them. If someone is controlling, your independence threatens them. If someone is closed-minded, your growth confuses them. If someone is spiritually empty, your depth makes them uncomfortable. When you understand this, you stop taking their opinions personally. You stop bending your path to keep them comfortable. You stop shrinking your soul to keep them from feeling small. Another Buddhist truth is that attachment to external validation creates fear. When you crave approval, you fear rejection. When you crave praise, you fear criticism. When you crave acceptance, you fear being misunderstood. When you crave support, you fear disappointment. This fear becomes a prison that stops you from taking risks, exploring new paths, evolving into your higher self, and living the life meant for you. But when you stop caring about opinions, fear dissolves. Courage rises. Alignment replaces doubt. You start making decisions that honor your inner guidance, not the voices around you. When you stop letting opinions control you, something powerful happens. You begin to live with integrity. You make choices that match your values, not society's expectations. You follow your intuition even when others do not understand it. You prioritize your peace even when people judge it. You choose relationships that nourish you, not relationships that demand performance. You pursue dreams that make your soul expand, not dreams that impress the world. This alignment creates a life that feels meaningful instead of performative. People will always talk. Their opinions are not your responsibility. Their judgments are not your truth. Their misunderstanding is not your burden. Their expectations are not your duty. Their projections are not your reality. When you try to manage everyone's opinions, you betray yourself. When you betray yourself, your soul feels restless. When your soul feels restless, no amount of approval can comfort you. You cannot find peace through the world. You find peace through authenticity. One of the most liberating realizations is this: the people whose opinions you fear are often people you won't even know in 10 years. People who don't contribute to your life, your growth, your healing, or your happiness. People who don't know your struggles. People who don't understand your heart. People who don't feel your calling. People who don't walk your path. Why would you let such temporary, irrelevant voices determine the direction of your permanent, precious life? This realization alone is enough to set you free. Another powerful transformation happens when you stop reacting to opinions. Your confidence becomes real. Not the false confidence that depends on praise, but the deep confidence that comes from knowing yourself. You start trusting your decisions even when others question them. You start liking your reflection even when others judge it. You start valuing your progress even when others can't see it. You start respecting your boundaries even when others challenge them. This is spiritual maturity, when your identity is rooted in your inner truth, not external noise. The Buddha explained that ignorance is loud and wisdom is quiet. Most people who give you opinions are speaking from ignorance, noisy, reactive, emotional ignorance. They offer advice they do not follow. They judge paths they have never walked. They comment on situations they don't understand. They assume things they never asked about. Their opinions come from ego, not insight. Wisdom, on the other hand, is silent. A wise person observes without judging, listens without assuming, and supports without controlling. When you stop letting ignorant voices guide you, your path becomes clearer, your decisions become stronger, and your peace becomes deeper. When you stop letting opinions control your destiny, you become unstoppable. You take risks without fearing judgment. You reinvent yourself without seeking approval. You leave toxic environments without feeling guilty. You walk away from draining relationships without explaining. You choose solitude without shame. You choose growth without hesitation. You choose truth without apology. You stop living as a character in other people's minds and start living as the author of your own life. And here's the most profound part. When you stop caring about opinions, you finally hear your own voice. You hear your intuition clearly. You hear your purpose calling. You hear the wisdom that was always there, buried beneath the noise of the world. You begin making choices that feel right in your heart. You begin pursuing dreams that align with your soul. You begin stepping into the version of yourself you were always meant to become. People will say, "You've changed." But you will say, "I finally stopped living for you." People will say, "You're distant." But you will say, "I finally learned to protect my peace." People will say, "You're selfish." But you will say, "I finally learned self-respect." People will say, "You're different." But you will say, "I finally became myself." This is what freedom looks like. This is what growth feels like. This is what spiritual maturity creates. A life where you are no longer shaped by the shifting winds of opinion. Your destiny becomes yours again. Your path becomes clear again. Your heart becomes strong again. Your mind becomes peaceful again. Your spirit becomes aligned again. And you finally begin to live not for approval, not for applause, not for acceptance, but for truth, purpose, and inner freedom. This is the moment you evolve. This is the moment you awaken. This is the moment you become untouchable. 15. Your spirit expands. When you learn to keep your growth private, there comes a point in your journey where silence is no longer just a boundary. It becomes a form of spiritual intelligence, a way of protecting your evolving self, a way of creating sacred space for your transformation, a way of honoring the version of you that is emerging. The Buddha taught that all meaningful growth happens quietly, away from the noise of the world, just like a seed that transforms beneath the soil. Your spirit expands not when everyone knows what you're doing, but when you learn to keep your growth private. Most people underestimate the power of privacy. They believe that sharing every detail of their evolution will bring motivation, validation, or support. But Buddhist wisdom tells the opposite. When your growth is exposed too soon, it becomes vulnerable to the energy of others, their jealousy, their doubts, their projections, their misunderstandings, their expectations, and their opinions. Growth is delicate. It needs quiet. It needs protection. It needs space. And when you learn to give your transformation the privacy it deserves, your spirit begins to expand in ways you never imagined. One of the biggest reasons to keep your growth private is that not everyone wants you to evolve. People you trust may fear losing the version of you they feel comfortable with. Some may feel threatened when you start healing wounds they never healed in themselves. Some may feel insecure when you stop tolerating what you once allowed. Some may feel intimidated when you begin choosing yourself. Some may feel jealous when you find clarity they have never reached. Your growth is a mirror. It reflects what others lack, and not everyone is ready to face that reflection. When you keep your growth private, you protect yourself from this resistance. You give your new mindset room to strengthen before others try to challenge it. You allow your healing to settle deeply before anyone tries to invalidate it. You allow your boundaries to root firmly before anyone tries to cross them. You allow your vision to become clear before anyone tries to discourage it. Privacy gives your growth time to mature without interference. And here is a deeper truth. When you share your growth too soon, you invite other people's fears into your mind. Someone may tell you your dream is unrealistic. Someone may claim your healing is unnecessary. Someone may say your boundaries are overreactive. Someone may imply your change is temporary. Someone may make you feel guilty for choosing yourself. And if your growth is still fresh, their opinions might shake your confidence. But when your transformation is kept private, these external forces cannot reach you. Your growth becomes your own, pure, untouched, and deeply rooted. The Buddha emphasized that the mind becomes strong when it is centered. Privacy is what keeps the mind centered. When you stop broadcasting your every step, your energy becomes inward focused. Your attention returns to your heart. Your intuition becomes louder. Your clarity becomes sharper. You stop living through the eyes of others, and you begin living through your own inner wisdom. Another reason privacy strengthens your spirit is that it reduces attachment to external validation. The more you share, the more you subconsciously look for reactions, approval, praise, support, validation. And when those reactions don't come, or when the reactions are negative, your motivation weakens, your confidence shrinks, your sense of self shakes. But when you keep your growth private, you detach from this cycle completely. You grow because it feels right, not because it looks good. You evolve because your soul is calling you, not because you want others to notice. Privacy takes you out of the performance of healing and brings you into the reality of healing. People often confuse talking about growth with actually growing, posting about change with actually changing, explaining their boundaries with actually enforcing them, telling others they're healing with actually doing the inner work. When your growth is private, there is no performance, no pressure, no audience, no expectations. There is only truth. And truth leads to real transformation. Another powerful aspect of private growth is that it deepens your relationship with yourself. When you stop seeking external guidance, opinions, or validation, you begin listening to your inner voice more closely. You begin trusting your intuition. You begin understanding your emotional patterns. You begin recognizing your triggers. You begin rewriting old narratives. This intimacy with yourself creates spiritual expansion, the kind of expansion that makes you grounded, aware, and emotionally intelligent. Privacy gives you the emotional solitude needed for reflection, and reflection is the birthplace of wisdom. You begin to see which habits were harming you, which connections were draining you, which environments were restricting you, which thoughts were limiting you, which patterns were repeating through your life. You develop a deeper connection with your inner world. You detach from the old version of yourself without the pressure of having to explain it to anyone. When your growth is private, your energy is preserved. Every time you talk about your progress, you spend energy. Every time you seek someone's opinion, you give away energy. Every time you defend your growth, you lose energy. But when you keep your evolution private, all that energy remains inside you and fuels your transformation. Your motivation stays pure. Your intentions stay focused. Your path stays clear. Privacy also elevates your aura. People can sense when you change, even if they cannot explain how. They feel your calmness, your boundaries, your new level of peace, your confidence, your grounded presence. They don't know what you healed, what you released, what you learned, or what you transformed. They just feel the difference. The less you say, the more your energy speaks. This is the beauty of silent evolution. Your presence becomes the message. Your peace becomes the proof. Your growth becomes the answer. Your silence becomes your power. Another important truth is that privacy removes expectations. When people know you are changing, they form opinions about what your change should look like. They expect you to be perfect. They expect you to be consistent. They expect you to evolve the way they imagine. And when you make mistakes, as all humans do, they judge you. When your growth is private, you avoid this pressure entirely. You evolve without the fear of disappointing anyone. You experiment, learn, fail, restart, reshift, and evolve freely. Growth is not linear. It requires patience, setbacks, and inner work. Privacy gives you space to fall without being watched, to rise without being judged, to restart without being questioned. In Buddhist teachings, the deepest transformations happen in solitude during meditation, silence, stillness, and introspection. Your spiritual expansion does not require an audience. It requires presence. It requires awareness. It requires honesty. It requires emotional truth. When you learn to grow privately, you move from living on the surface to living from the center. And here is the final, most powerful truth. When you keep your growth private, the world cannot interfere with what it cannot see. People cannot sabotage what they do not know. They cannot judge what they cannot access. They cannot envy what they cannot identify. They cannot block what they cannot predict. They cannot ruin what they cannot reach. Your evolution becomes invisible but unstoppable, quiet but powerful, hidden but immense. You begin to rise without noise, transform without witnesses, heal without explanations, evolve without permission, grow without boundaries. This is what spiritual freedom looks like. This is what inner strength feels like. This is what true growth requires. Your spirit expands the moment you stop putting your evolution on display and start honoring it as something sacred, private, and deeply personal. The world does not need to understand your transformation. It only needs to feel it when you finally emerge stronger, wiser, clearer, calmer, and more powerful than ever before. 16. You rise higher the moment you accept that not everyone deserves a place in your future. There is a moment in every spiritual journey when you realize that your growth demands something you never expected: distance. Distance from certain people. Distance from certain environments. Distance from certain energies. Distance from certain habits. And distance from the version of yourself that once tolerated all of it. The Buddha taught that liberation is not only about what you gain, but also about what you release. You rise higher the moment you accept that not everyone deserves a place in your future. Human beings have a natural tendency to hold on to relationships, to memories, to comfort zones, to familiarity, to shared history, to emotional attachments. We convince ourselves that keeping everyone close is a form of loyalty. But Buddhist wisdom reveals something deeper. Not everyone is meant to walk every stage of your journey with you. Some people are stepping stones, not destinations. Some people are lessons, not lifelong companions. And some people represent chapters that must close for the next one to begin. The suffering comes when we refuse to accept this truth, when we force outdated relationships to fit into our new identity, when we cling to people who have already outgrown us or whom we have outgrown, when we give emotional access to those who have not earned it, when we allow the past to influence a future that demands clarity, when we let guilt keep us tied to connections that disturb our peace. This resistance becomes spiritual friction. It slows your evolution and blocks the path ahead. Growth demands alignment, not attachment. And alignment requires honesty. The truth is that your spirit cannot rise if it is surrounded by those who drain it. Your mind cannot evolve if it is surrounded by those who confuse it. Your healing cannot deepen if it is surrounded by those who reopen your wounds. Your future cannot unfold if you keep holding the hands of people who belong to your past. You deserve relationships that match the level of peace, clarity, and maturity you are developing, not relationships that make you shrink back into who you used to be. When you begin growing, something subtle but powerful happens. Your energy changes, your thoughts become deeper, your self-awareness becomes sharper, your boundaries become stronger, your intuition becomes louder, your vision becomes clearer. And because of this shift, not everyone will resonate with you anymore. Some will misunderstand your silence. Some will interpret your peace as arrogance. Some will feel threatened by your confidence. Some will resent your boundaries because they benefited from your lack of them. Some will step away because your growth activates their insecurities. And some will try to pull you back because they fear being left behind. This is where spiritual maturity is tested. Will you dim your light to keep others comfortable, or will you continue rising, even if it means walking alone for a while? The Buddha taught the importance of choosing companionship with wisdom. A good companion can elevate your journey, but the wrong companion can delay your awakening for years. Yet most people remain loyal to old connections out of emotional attachment. They fear letting go because they believe letting go means losing love. But letting go does not mean anger, resentment, or bitterness. It means releasing the energetic bond that no longer serves your growth. It means allowing each person to walk their own path. It means accepting that the universe removes what cannot grow with you. Your future version of yourself is calling for space, emotional, mental, spiritual space. But if your hands are full of old relationships, old energies, old wounds, and old expectations, how can you receive what is meant for you? How can you enter the next stage of your life when you are still emotionally living in the last? When you accept that not everyone belongs in your future, you create room for people who do, people who understand your depth, respect your boundaries, support your growth, and walk with you, not against you. People who do not become insecure when you succeed, people who do not abandon you when you heal, people who do not judge you when you choose peace, people who do not resent you when you prioritize your mental health, people who do not fear your evolution. These people are rare, and you find them only after releasing those who block your path. One of the most powerful lessons the Buddha taught is that attachment leads to suffering. And one of the strongest attachments people carry is the attachment to relationships that are no longer aligned with their soul. We hold on because of history, but history does not guarantee harmony. We hold on because of memories, but memories do not guarantee peace. We hold on because of loyalty, but loyalty does not guarantee growth. We hold on because of comfort, but comfort does not guarantee evolution. The mind clings. The soul knows when it's time to let go. And letting go is not a punishment, it is a cleansing, a clearing, a purification of your spiritual path. You are not abandoning people. You are honoring the truth that your future needs different energy than your past. Some people were meant to teach you, not accompany you forever. Some people were meant to challenge you, not complete you. Some people were meant to awaken you, not stay with you. Their purpose has been served. To force them into your future is to force yourself into stagnation. Your spirit rises when you make peace with this truth. Another profound transformation happens when you accept that not everyone deserves access to you. You become more selective, more conscious, more intentional. You stop allowing people to enter your life out of loneliness or convenience. You stop tolerating emotional chaos. You stop accepting bare minimum effort. You stop entertaining disrespect disguised as humor. You stop granting second chances to people who never valued the first one. You stop explaining your boundaries. You stop overgiving to those who undergive. Your circle becomes smaller, but your peace becomes larger. This is because your energy becomes sacred. You are no longer available for draining conversations, manipulative behaviors, or one-sided relationships. You choose people who nourish your growth. You choose environments that elevate your peace. You choose conversations that stimulate your mind. You choose connections that feel like home, not warfare. And in doing so, your life transforms at a spiritual level. When you no longer fear losing people, you finally become free enough to choose the right ones. One of the most beautiful outcomes of releasing the wrong people is that your intuition becomes sharper, your inner world becomes quieter, your clarity becomes stronger. You begin recognizing who aligns with your frequency without needing explanations. You see who brings peace and who brings disturbance, who brings healing and who brings wounds, who brings truth and who brings illusions. You begin walking with discernment, not desperation. And here's the profound part. When you stop forcing people into your future, you also stop forcing yourself into theirs. You stop trying to prove your worth. You stop trying to convince anyone to stay. You stop trying to be understood by those committed to misunderstanding you. You stop trying to earn love from those who cannot love beyond their wounds. You stop trying to revive relationships that died long ago. You stop trying to fit into spaces that your spirit has already outgrown. Your soul becomes lighter. Your mind becomes clearer. Your heart becomes peaceful. And your path becomes aligned. Because now, finally, you are no longer dragging people who were never meant to walk with you. You are no longer carrying emotional weight that is not yours. You are no longer fighting battles that do not belong to you. You are no longer shrinking to make others comfortable. You are no longer betraying yourself to maintain connections that drain you. You are rising. And rising always requires releasing. Your destiny does not involve everyone you once knew. It involves the version of you that emerges when you stop being afraid of outgrowing people. Your future is shaped by the courage to walk away from what limits you and step into what expands you. This is the path of liberation, the path of clarity, the path of inner transformation. Not everyone deserves a place in your future, and accepting this truth is the moment your spirit is finally free to rise. 17. You transform deeply the moment you stop explaining your standards and start living them. There comes a stage in your spiritual evolution where you no longer feel the urge to explain why you expect respect, why you protect your peace, why you choose solitude, why you set boundaries, or why you walk away from certain people. You no longer argue. You no longer justify. You no longer over-explain. Instead, you simply live your truth. The Buddha taught that wisdom is not proven through arguments, it is expressed through presence, behavior, and clarity. You transform deeply the moment you stop explaining your standards and start living them. Most people exhaust themselves trying to convince others why they deserve better treatment. They defend their decisions to people who never cared to understand. They justify their boundaries to those who repeatedly disrespected them. They seek approval from those who take their kindness for granted. They explain their worth to people who only listen to find flaws. This cycle becomes a prison, emotional, mental, spiritual, because every time you explain your standards, you give power to people who haven't earned it. You allow them to decide whether your boundaries are acceptable. You hand them permission to validate your needs. You ask them to approve the very things you were meant to protect. But Buddhist wisdom teaches something far more powerful. The highest form of self-respect is silent alignment. You do not announce your standards. You embody them. You do not defend your boundaries. You reinforce them. You do not argue for your value. You live it. People learn how to treat you, not from what you explain, but from what you tolerate. One of the deepest sources of suffering is the belief that you owe people explanations for your evolution. You do not. Your healing is not a public conversation. Your growth is not a democratic decision. Your boundaries are not up for negotiation. Your peace is not something to be debated. Your standards are not a topic for discussion. You cannot build a peaceful life while constantly defending your right to have one. When you stop explaining your standards, you create a new kind of silence, a silence filled with strength. This silence is not passive, it is powerful. It is the silence that comes from self-knowledge, from wisdom, from inner clarity. It is the silence that knows when to speak and when to walk away. It is the silence that stops seeking permission and starts trusting intuition. It is the silence that comes from knowing your value deeply enough that you no longer need others to confirm it. Most people are uncomfortable when you start living your standards, not because your standards are too high, but because your self-respect exposes their lack of it. When you raise your expectations, people who benefited from your low boundaries feel threatened. When you choose peace, people who thrive on drama feel rejected. When you become selective, people who expected unlimited access feel offended. When you walk away silently, people who relied on your emotional reactions feel powerless. Your standards disrupt the comfort they had in your old self. This is why the Buddha said that the path of liberation requires courage, the courage to disappoint others rather than disappoint yourself, the courage to choose growth over approval, the courage to protect your peace even when it makes others uncomfortable, the courage to let go of people who refuse to evolve, the courage to walk alone when necessary. True transformation begins the moment you decide that your inner world is more important than how others perceive you. When you stop explaining your standards, your relationships transform. You begin attracting people who understand respect without needing reminders. People who appreciate your boundaries instead of testing them. People who communicate honestly instead of manipulating. People who support your growth instead of resenting it. People who value your presence instead of taking advantage of it. People who love without making you shrink. You also begin recognizing who should never have been allowed access to you in the first place. Your silence reveals people's intentions. When you stop explaining yourself, manipulative people reveal their frustration, disrespectful people reveal their entitlement, and insecure people reveal their jealousy. Meanwhile, emotionally mature people reveal their understanding, supportive people reveal their sincerity, and spiritually aligned people reveal their depth. Silence is a mirror. It reflects everyone's truth. One of the most freeing realizations is this: your standards are not demands. They are reflections of how deeply you respect yourself. When you live them, your entire energy shifts. You stop chasing people. You stop tolerating inconsistency. You stop allowing mixed signals. You stop accepting bare minimum effort. You stop seeking closure from people who benefit from confusing you. You stop giving heart access to emotionally unavailable people. You stop engaging in conversations that drain you. You stop explaining yourself to people who refuse to listen. Your spirit becomes calmer. Your mind becomes sharper. Your emotions become balanced. Your intuition becomes louder. You awaken to the truth that your life is shaped by what you allow. When you stop explaining your standards, you stop giving people the blueprint to manipulate you. You stop giving them the opportunity to twist your words. You stop giving them the chance to argue with your values. You take back your power because you take back your silence. Another powerful transformation happens internally. Your self-worth becomes internal, not external. You no longer need others to validate your boundaries. You no longer rely on approval to feel confident. You no longer need agreement to make decisions. You no longer look outward to define what is acceptable for your life. Your worth becomes rooted in your consciousness, not in external acceptance. This internal shift also strengthens your intuition. When you stop arguing for your standards, your intuition guides you toward the right people, environments, and choices. You begin feeling when something or someone is misaligned. You sense when a connection is healthy or harmful. You discern between genuine intentions and hidden motives. You recognize when a path is meant for you and when it is time to let go. And here is the deepest truth. Living your standards silently is the purest form of spiritual discipline. It breaks old patterns, heals old wounds, restores your self-respect, and raises your frequency. You begin living with intentionality, not impulsiveness, with clarity, not confusion, with strength, not attachment, with presence, not performance. People may not understand your silence, but your spirit does. People may not like your boundaries, but your healing does. People may resist your standards, but your future does. People may question your changes, but your soul does not, because your soul knows you are becoming someone stronger, wiser, calmer, and more aligned than ever before. You transform deeply the moment you stop explaining your standards and start living them quietly, consistently, powerfully. Your silence becomes your teacher. Your standards become your guide. Your self-respect becomes your shield. Your alignment becomes your compass. And your future becomes yours again. When you look back at your journey, the silence you embraced, the boundaries you built, the people you released, the attachments you outgrew, the standards you began living, the opinions you stopped fearing, the validation you stopped seeking, and the growth you protected, you begin to understand something profound. Your evolution was never about becoming someone new. It was about returning to the person you were always meant to be. The Buddha taught that enlightenment is not the arrival at a different self, but the uncovering of the true self, hidden beneath noise, expectations, fear, attachment, and confusion. And through each of these lessons, you have been slowly peeling away those layers, revealing the quiet, powerful, grounded soul beneath it all. Your growth did not happen in the moments when life was calm. It happened in the storms, in the moments when you chose silence instead of reaction, when you chose boundaries instead of pleasing, when you chose peace instead of argument, when you chose distance instead of chaos, when you chose truth instead of validation, when you chose healing instead of explanation, when you chose yourself instead of the world. These are the decisions that shaped your spirit. These are the decisions that elevated your frequency. These are the decisions that transformed the direction of your life. The most powerful transformation is internal. The world may not see it immediately, but you feel it deeply. Your mind is no longer a battlefield. Your heart is no longer a revolving door. Your emotions are no longer chaotic waves. Your identity is no longer dependent on how others see you. You have become centered, rooted in your truth, unshakable in your peace, selective with your energy, and aligned with your purpose. This is what true spiritual strength looks like. Not loud, not dramatic, not performative, but quiet, steady, intentional, and deeply grounded. You have learned that silence is not weakness, silence is wisdom. You have learned that boundaries are not walls, they are pathways to peace. You have learned that letting go is not loss, it is liberation. You have learned that solitude is not loneliness, it is self-discovery. You have learned that privacy is not secrecy, it is protection. You have learned that not everyone deserves access to your heart, your mind, your life, or your future. You have learned that your energy is sacred, and not everyone is qualified to hold it. Most importantly, you have learned that your destiny does not belong to the world. It belongs to you. It belongs to the version of yourself who rises every time you choose peace over noise, alignment over approval, and authenticity over expectation. This entire journey has not been about changing your outer world. It has been about reclaiming your inner world so that your outer world can finally reflect the truth of who you are. You have stepped into a higher chapter of your life, one where you no longer chase people, attention, or validation, one where you no longer explain yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you, one where you no longer carry the emotional weight of others, one where you no longer shrink yourself to fit into places your soul has already outgrown, one where your silence speaks louder than your words, your presence is stronger than your explanations, and your spirit is brighter than your past. This is your awakening. This is your liberation. This is your evolution. Carry these lessons with you. Live them quietly. Walk with them proudly. Protect them fiercely. Let them guide you through every new beginning, every challenge, every decision, and every transformation. You are no longer who you were. You are stronger. You are wiser. You are clearer. You are more peaceful. And you are finally walking your path, the path meant for the person you have become. Your journey continues from here, not loudly, not desperately, not with explanations, but with calmness, strength, clarity, and an unshakable sense of inner peace. You have grown in silence, and that silence has made you unstoppable.